Hey guys, what's up? Just thought we would make a quick video just to update you guys on what happened yesterday. Something very tragic happened to Mikey, completely unexpected, completely out of the blue, but very, very sadly, Mikey had a toe amputated. This basically started around 11 o'clock in the morning yesterday. We had a whole weekend planned. Myself, Mummy Human, and Baby Human were heading off to a beautiful 5-star hotel and resort for the weekend. We had bird care booked in all the way up until, end of Sunday night, and we were just showering the birds yesterday. They always are a whole lot calmer after a shower, so we figured before we left, we'd give them a really good shower, which they obviously absolutely love. While they were showering, we decided to go make some lunch. Mummy Human went out mid-lunch to make sure the birds were okay in their showers. Mia wanted to come in, she was all done, and Mikey was on the kind of flat part of our net. Now, having a flat part of a net is pretty weird because, garden nets usually go up. But because we have a weird corner in our garden, it kind of flattens off a little bit, and the birds run across it a lot. To cross from one fence to another, they have a little flat bit where they kind of jump around and run across it, and it's never ever been an issue. So she sees him there, and he's just hanging out there. So obviously he doesn't think anything of it, so comes back in and we keep eating lunch together. About 6 or 7 minutes pass, and she goes back out, and Mikey's still there. And she thought, okay, this is weird. So went in for a closer look, and his whole talon had basically come off or been ripped off, and there was literally like flesh hanging out and everything. She runs into the house in tears, basically asking me to basically get him out and save him. I ran out, saw it instantly, ran back in to grab some scissors, and the moment I saw him kind of struggling, I was a little bit worried, because when Mikey has been in pain in the past, if I've tried to help him or grab him, instantly he's going to try and attack me. So that was a big worry at that point, because getting a big beak inside your hand is never very good. But the moment I asked him to step up with his free foot, instantly he got on. He kind of looked at me basically saying like, please help me. Like, he'd been there probably struggling 6 or 7 minutes now. So he'd somehow wrapped his foot. 2 of his toes were basically wrapped around the net. So he'd probably sat in there, done a turn, done another turn, and then tried to free himself by probably turning and turning and turning. It wrapped around a good couple of times. After trying to do it with my hand very quickly, I gave up after a couple of seconds and just cut the entire net and brought him back straight to the house. And by the looks of it, and I don't know for 100%, but by the looks of it, it seemed like he had chewed his entire front talon off to free himself. I'm not sure if this is exactly what happened. Vets basically said he might have wrapped it around it and pulled it off, but there was no signs of that because it was wrapped quite high, so maybe he did self-mutilate to free himself, which is just absolutely horrible to even think. It's been known that birds have done this in the past as well, so maybe that was what happened. But we got him in. Oh, and massive trigger, blood, flesh, more blood warnings throughout this entire video. If you're not easy with blood or seeing flesh, definitely don't watch the rest of this. But yeah, here's the first clip I think we took of his foot, because we wanted to get a really, really good look at it, and he kept moving a lot.
This is cool. We're gonna have to find it. We have to.
Now at this point, we were both in absolute shock. It's never ever nice to see an animal that you love and care for with, ligaments hanging out and tendons hanging out, and then blood just started pouring everywhere very, very shortly after, and we just started kind of freaking out. Instantly, firstly, tried to call our avian vet, our local. They were closed. Our next go-to was Swindon Great Exotic Vets. We took Mikey there in 2019, I believe, when he hit into that window. That was the last time Mikey had actually seen a vet for any emergency. So he's been pretty much happy sailing, emergency-free since then, which is really good. He's only been to the vet, well, now twice, because of any emergencies in the 9 years or so we've had him, so that's not too bad. So instantly we called them. They are, however, 2 hours away, so we had an appointment booked for them literally 2 hours after, but we were worried he was gonna keep losing blood. There was a lot of blood dripping from his foot, so we tried to find other vets closer by. There was 2 within about a 45-minute radius, which a couple of friends had recommended to us. One of them said they have 2 vets on site, but both aren't avian specialists. We've had experience with going to vets that aren't avian specialists, and it's never, ever, ever gone good. I wouldn't recommend it, especially when you have to put a bird under, or especially when you have to handle birds. People who don't do this on a regular aren't familiar with it. They don't know what they're doing. They're not trained on it. Always, always, always contact avian vets. We contacted another vet and they basically said they have an exotic vet, which isn't an avian specialist. And again, we just kind of shut that idea down. There was a third option, which was about an hour and a half away, which they did have an avian specialist there, but we had been to Swindon Great Exotics before. We know the vet's there. We know they are very, very good. And we kind of figured it was worth that extra 30-minute drive. Throughout this time, we were trying to wrap his foot up. He didn't want us to actually touch his foot at all. He was a lot calmer when we didn't cover it and wrap it up, but he also did go through stages where he kept wanting to lick it and kind of tend to it himself, and we had to keep kind of keeping his beak away from it, which wasn't easy because he was in pain. He wanted to kind of take care of it, and the whole situation was just an absolute mess. So we basically completely cancelled our plans for the entire day, got in the car and headed straight to Great Exotic Vets in Swindon. The road the GPS took us was probably the most bumpiest way ever. It was terrible. We weren't on any highways for about an hour and a half, which isn't easy when you're trying to hold a bird in the front seat very, very calmly. Mummy Human had that job. And it wasn't easy with the amount of potholes in this country. That wasn't fun. But Mikey did really, really well on the journey. He was very quiet. He was very calm. He let Mummy Human hold him, and we just kind of avoided him touching that wound the entire time. The whole front of his entire left toe still was bleeding, and that wasn't good because, you know, there's only so much blood a bird can lose before they do lose consciousness. So that was obviously our main concern, trying to get there, obviously without speeding and being too dangerous or anything like that. The moment we got to the vet, Tom, our avian vet, saw him straight away, basically looked at it and said, wow, that entire sheath has come off. And he basically said, all right, we're gonna have to put him under straight away. An x-ray is gonna have to be done. The chances of an amputation are pretty high. Now, anesthetics with birds are very, very worrying. You know, it's always a risky procedure. It's rare that anything bad happens. We know birds who have died under anesthetics, so it's something we very, very rarely want to do. In this situation, obviously we had to. So it's always a little worry in that sense. Yeah, we did know he was in good hands. These vets are amazing. So we were able to have a little bit of peace of mind in that sense. So we gave Mikey a final kiss and a cuddle kind of before he went under. He was still in a lot of shock at this point, still very, very calm, still a lot of blood everywhere. And then he was wrapped up in a towel and taken away. Throughout this time, we had Baby Human with us. You know, she has no idea what's going on. She is filled with energy. So I basically just took her into the car park and let her run free. So that was basically the majority of her day, running around the car park, playing in puddles and stuff like that. The vet came out probably about 45 minutes later. They did have to amputate. So they've taken all that fleshy stuff off and they basically cut it maybe about a centimeter back by the looks of it. They'd wrapped it up as well. So that was basically goodbye for Mikey's toe. After that was done, the vet wanted us to hang out for about an hour just to make sure the bleeding was going to basically completely stop. It was still dripping a little bit, but it wasn't too bad. And he kind of just hid behind me on my hood and just kind of sat there the entire time, seeming very, very, very shocked. I don't really know if he knew what went on, what happened. We still don't know if he did this to himself or not. Oh, and here's one point, which is actually quite interesting because I thought he would have actually screamed. You know, he's stuck. Why isn't he screaming for us to come and get him kind of thing? Why is he sitting there in silence trying to free himself, kind of maybe potentially biting off his own toe if that's what he did? These birds by instinct are prey animals. You know, if they were in the jungle, if they are trapped and if they are screaming, there is a very, very high chance they are going to get eaten. So I think instinct may have kicked in for him. He's like, okay, I'm trapped, I'm in pain, I can't get out, I need to stay as quiet as possible, which really, really didn't help in the situation because if he was screaming like crazy, we would have been out there instantly. But it's crazy how instincts do kick in like that because, you know, these are still wild birds. Anyway, we were at the vets for quite some time and they just wanted to observe him just to make sure he was okay. And we just kind of sat. Mikey just basically sat the entire time. So Mia was at home this whole time. Obviously, we were meant to be away, so we had our bird sitter booked in. So she came and looked after Mia while we were with Mikey. We were free to take him home. We brought him back. We have medication to give him for the next 7 days, painkillers and antibiotics. He's been pretty good. He's just basically very, very calm. He's very still. He has flown a few times, and you know, it doesn't seem like it's kind of bothering him. He's not picking at it as much as we thought he would. We were worried we'd have to put a cone on him, and that would have just been absolutely horrible because birds get extremely stressed with cones. He does seem like he's in shock. He doesn't seem himself at all. Mikey is loud and energetic and mischievous, so the entire day today he's basically just sat and done pretty much nothing. He's eating fine and everything though, so he will make a recovery. It is just super, super sad that he's lost, you know, his main left claw. It was the big long one, and it's, you know, it's been with him for 10 years and now it's gone for the rest of his life, which is very, very sad. That night we monitored him on the camera when they were asleep in their aviary, just to make sure he was okay, not picking at it, and he was pretty much out the entire night, which was really, really good. He even woke up late. Even today he's just been kind of falling asleep in the middle of the day, which is extremely rare for Mikey. Getting painkillers into him is not fun at all. We're kind of having to soak banana in painkillers with peanut butter and then he'll kind of eat them, but you know, it's one of those temporary things. Moving forward, we might try and build a bridge over the two angles of the fence. I think that might be smart. That way they're not going to actually be on that flat space. For anyone else who does have nets, I don't think it's too much of a risk. I mean, it'll be extremely hard for you to get a talon wrapped if you are climbing up a net as opposed to standing on it, spinning around and spinning around. I don't think many birds do climb them and then spin around, but for all bird owners out there who do have nets up, keep this as a quick reminder that things can happen very, very quickly. We will keep you guys posted with stories and stuff on Instagram and Facebook, you know, on his progress, on how it's going. Right now, it's still really, really fresh. It is still bleeding, and we're gonna have to keep redressing it for the next couple of days, but fingers crossed he makes a speedy recovery. Sorry to upset anyone who really loves Mikey. It's been a really stressful 24 hours. We're glad he's home. You know, silver linings, it wasn't his wings. You know, if he couldn't fly, that would have been absolutely terrible. He'll be perfectly fine, just one toe less for the rest of his life.